Welcome to another episode of Washington in Focus. I'm your host, Tim Klauser, with the Center Square's Western Washington reporter, Spencer Pauly, here to talk about potentially a positive for Seattle. It looks like the city of Seattle is on track in terms of its goal for sidewalk repairs with this new $1.55 billion levy that voters passed recently. Spencer, tell us a little bit more about the numbers you have on this.
Sure. So, mind you, this is the first year of the city's transportation levy. You said the price tag there, $1.55 billion. Now, this is the highest. This is the largest tax measure in city history. I mean, there's no countering that. But yeah, in the first year so far, that money is going to good use in some degree because the Seattle Department of Transportation just updated the committee on where we're at with the sidewalks, which was a major element of this tax measure. And so, as you might have just said, in less than a year so far, we've conducted 34% of the sidewalk repairs that the city promised over the levy's 8-year span. Okay, so what that means is there were 11,500 some spot repairs, or about like 21.7 sidewalk blocks so far this year. Notably, this was done with an $8 million budget coming from that levy. So kind of a smaller budget per se compared to some of the other measures or other parts of this levy, right? But yeah, the levy had a target of about 4,250 sidewalk spot repairs per year. So this is going way over that here with 11,000 some.
Yeah, they more than doubled their annual goal. I mean, that's quite the figure. It makes me think ahead to, they have 8 years of levy funding for this. Do they anticipate getting more than their entire goal or whatnot? But $8 million, like you said, that's a very small part of a $1.55 billion levy. I mean, it looks like they're on track with where things are going so far with these sidewalk repairs. But what else does this levy fund?
Okay, sure. There's some other aspects of this, including safety, right? So we need to install more guardrails and more bike lanes because this is a huge part of Seattle's Vision Zero program. It's an ambitious goal of 0 deaths by 2030. We'll see how that goes. But the largest portion of funding that this levy goes towards is for street maintenance and modernization. So we're not talking sidewalks, we're talking the roads. We're talking those potholes. We're trying to just reshape these streets to make it more biker friendly, trying to free up space so there's less traffic congestion because as a lot of people in Seattle and, anyone else coming into the city, traffic is really bad here. And I think what this levy was, got 66% of the votes last November. And a lot of that is to kind of free up this space here and just not only improve street quality conditions and sidewalks, but also just to modernize it. And so that's just spacing it out, making it so that traffic congestion goes away because no one wants to drive for 40 minutes to get 5 miles away, right? That's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't live in the city myself. I can only imagine what it's like. I mean, for you being a resident in Seattle, I mean, firsthand, having walked the streets of Seattle, Spencer, are you noticing the sidewalk improvements? Are you still tripping as you're walking from the grocery store to your apartment?
I told you before we started recording that I'd have tripped over some of the sidewalks out here. No, the sidewalks by me have not been fixed yet. I think they're probably prioritizing other hot spots within the city. Luckily, I guess my neighborhood hasn't been considered a hot spot, but there are still some rather rough patch segments of sidewalk where it's just, it's breaking apart. Some are just shifted wrong. Actually, funny enough, you say that. I think one sidewalk is so like cracked and like pointed up that rats have dug a tunnel underneath. So I've actually seen rats go underneath the sidewalk and come out the other way. And yeah, I do trip over them still, but I think that's more me just needing to pick up my feet. But we don't have to go into that right now, Tim. Thanks for bringing that up. But I think there are improvements elsewhere, right? So if I head downtown, for instance, some of those sidewalks have improved, and the other thing is that we're talking about, 34% of these flagged sidewalks have been repaired, right? The issue is that within 8 years, more sidewalks will be in need of repairs. So while we have this set number here, we're going to see that shift in, the estimation of sidewalk blocks that will need to be fixed, these spot repairs. So this number will change through time. But right now, it seems like they've been really busy this year so far.
Tell me a little bit more about where are we going to see sidewalks next, potentially with the rest of this project. And then if they do reassess and find more needed repairs, I mean, where might we see those, if not outside your apartment?
Okay, so we're talking about these sidewalk repairs, but we also need to install new sidewalks in parts of Seattle where there's just nothing there. And so the city set out a goal of 250 blocks of new sidewalks and just alternatives to that over the next 4 years, with funding coming from this big levy. Now, already, I think we're seeing 40 to 50 blocks of new sidewalk that are going to be constructed by the end of this year, and then 70 more blocks in design for construction next year. Now, if the city were to repair all these backlogged sidewalks and obstacles that have been flagged, it would cost up to $1.3 billion. Now, just to put that into perspective, the total replacement value of all the city sidewalks totals $5.9 billion. So that's a huge chunk of money here we're talking about. And even though it's a big city, this is a lot of infrastructure that needs to be repaired or needs to just be modernized and, ADA accessible. All these elements that we're talking about when we're talking about infrastructure. And so that's part of what this levy will do, is just to modernize the city, make it more accessible, and, hopefully stop me from tripping more on the sidewalks. But, that doesn't happen too often, Tim. So
correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, this report that the city put out, I think it was this week, on its progress, it's doing great in terms of numbers. It's way ahead of its goal in terms of this levy. But you're telling me in terms of the total costs, all the repairs that they need to do, it could cost over $1 billion alone compared to the $8 million they're spending on these 34,000 repairs. These
are $8 million for spot repairs, right? Now, this was brought up during the presentation on Tuesday. And so that $1.3 billion is much larger than 8 million. But I think what we're looking at is increased costs for designing and construction on these sidewalks. I mean, that's just a whole process in and of itself. And one of the things I talked about was within this 4 years, especially within the first year, a lot of planning has to be taking place to just work on these sidewalks. So what the city did was this quote unquote neighborhood walk shop, in which they just kind of they work with the community to identify and select what projects they were going to spend money on within these 4 years. And so that's continuing to go on in 2025, including 2 more in the upcoming fall. Now, I think that $8 million you see will be pumped up a couple million over the next few years here as they really crack down on more of these new sidewalks and, less about these little spot repairs. And we're going to see more, sidewalks closed down just for full on construction.
Yeah, I mean, that's miles and miles of new sidewalks. Interested to see where it will go. I mean, if it's in areas of the city that might not just have sidewalks stretching all the way up to intersections, or if it's going to be tackling more of the outskirts of the city, maybe the cusp of other municipalities as well. But definitely something we'll keep our eyes on, and we'll continue to watch your coverage of, Spencer. But thanks again for joining us for another episode of Washington in Focus. And if you'd like to catch any more of Spencer's coverage, you can catch it at thecentersquare.com.